right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Harrison Woods. We have the lovely Julia here. Julia Anderson. Welcome to Tipping the Scale podcast. This will be episode 4. So you're one of the foundational members of the guests I've had on my show. It's always a learning experience, and man, I wish we could tape the conversation we had off
I
off
know.
screen. But
We
that'll be
start.
for a different episode in the future when we can look back and talk about how, because Julia
Yes.
really gave me some insight that I will truly never forget. So thank you very much, Julia. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Appreciate
And
you.
Julia also taught me that I need to wear my ring during interviews so I don't come off as
Yes.
when I ask for people's contact information. I'm not hitting on that. So anyway, so a little bit about Julia. She is the director of operations at Capital Marketing. Julia Anderson is instrumental in placing top-tier US-based fractional CMOs into real estate business to develop and execute custom-tailored marketing strategies for real estate investors. With a focus on aligning strategic marketing with capital raising goals, Julia has helped drive client results that have led to successful raising of over $100 million in capital. Her leadership and operational expertise ensures that every marketing initiative is seamlessly executed, empowering real estate businesses to scale exponentially. Ladies and gentlemen, Julia Anderson, welcome to Tipping the Scale.
Thank you for having me. Excited.
Of course. So, Julia, I always like to start the people. I always like a good origin story before we get talking about you. So, like, tell me about we talked before, and it was such a great story, and we have some similarities as well. So, please share with us your story.
Yeah. Right out of college, I landed this job that was, looking back now, it was so pivotal to who I am as a person. I learned so much through that, and I feel like that is really what got me to where I am today. But essentially, I just answered a call from a friend of a friend and started a charcuterie business, and it was like, there's a time where charcuterie was very much a fad. I think it's still, it's kind of died down a little bit, but it was super popular then. We were kind of first to the market. It was this brand new company. They just got a commercial kitchen, and basically I was hired on to do the social media and to do event planning. So they were also at the time building out a restaurant next door. Um, but I was basically, just we would wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning. We would get to the kitchen. We would make 300, 400 boxes, and, send them out for the day. And I was not as much great at putting together and making everything look pretty, but I was very much better at the business operations of everything. So, doing the customer service, making sure all the delivery drivers had all the things that they needed, crossing the T's and dotting the I's when it came to operations. Throughout that, they kind of noticed that and they asked me to be the hospitality director for the restaurant that was opening up. So basically, from that time, from till about, I still work with them all the time, but about a yearish ago, I became the director of operations and basically helped build that brand from just, a few girls in a charcuterie kitchen to having uh, a brick and mortar store there where they still create and cater all of those charcuterie boards, and a full-size restaurant where we were the number one restaurant basically for 4 years in a row on Open Table,
Oh, wow.
and also a cafe as well that was in a different city. So we expanded exponentially. And I really do think it was because of our marketing and because of really the hospitality aspect of it. We Everyone that entered our doors, we treated like family. But loved doing that, absolutely. It was pivotal to who I am as a person, but I just knew it wasn't sustainable for me as we were only open at nights. It was just, really long nights, and I knew that I just couldn't do that forever. So I wanted to get out of there, and my best friend was working at a real estate firm in Louisville, Kentucky, where I'm based out of. And they were focused on multifamily syndication, so the capital raising side, and then they also had a property management side as well. But I was focused on the raising capital side, and we were a part of a um, Raise Masters
Oh, okay.
that was very focused on, capital raising for marketing for capital raisers. So I learned a ton through them, optimized, the CRM. We did a whole rebrand. We did a podcast launch, did so many different things. And while I was sitting in those Zoom calls with everyone else at Raise Masters, I was looking around and just seeing how many people needed help with marketing because, they're either, they have a W-2 and they're doing this on the side, or they just don't realize how much marketing goes into if you want to raise capital outside of your friends and family, you need to have a marketing machine behind you. You need to have that stamp of credibility on the internet. And that's something that came very natural to me. So that's how Capital Marketing Officer was born. Essentially, we help people take that marketing piece of the puzzle off of their plate, and we give them an experience, 15 to 20 plus years of experience in, marketing for real estate and handing those people over to them to basically build that marketing foundation for them so they can have consistent lead generation and raise more capital. Hmm.
That's great. And it's funny, I kind of want to touch you on something like I feel like a lot of people deal with, and that is how did you get out of this situation realizing like your lifestyle wasn't sustainable? Because I felt as though like I've been in a situation where I was like, I've been a DJ for 15 years and I'm just like, okay, like the next step was for me to like start doing like festivals and stuff like that. And I just knew that like I didn't like that lifestyle and I just knew it wouldn't be sustainable for me. So I know the one thing I've learned from dealing with affluent is people, especially, it's like you have to find something that you're comfortable with scaling or something that is scalable. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Right.
I love DJing, but I didn't like the scaling aspect of hiring other DJs and starting an entertainment company. It just didn't appeal to me, which it does in real estate. So
Yeah.
speak a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I think it was really just how much I was sacrificing and just not getting a lot back, you know? Um, Obviously you have to sacrifice in life. And if it's a goal of yours, then you need to sacrifice, right? But
We're breaking up just a little bit. Julia.
sorry.
No, you're good. You just broke up a little bit.
Okay. Good. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I was really missing out on like hanging out with my friends. I would always have to work Saturday nights. Everything happens on Saturday nights because everyone else is working, a 9 to 5.
Hmm.
Um, so, and it really came to the point where we were actually potentially moving and like the clock was ticking and I was just missing those like the things that are actually important, which is our like relationships and having a time with your family and having time with your friends. And I was just missing out on that all the time. And I was just like, if this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life, this is what it's always gonna look like. It was always I just didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely. I'm
It's a
sorry.
huge accomplishment, great accomplishment, but yeah, I just felt like there was no light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. And especially like it's crazy because I know a lot of people who have I've worked with a lot of old people and that's like one thing that I was lucky to experience at a young age is people that have stayed in a place and just refuse to like change or scared of change. You know what I mean? And that's the one thing that can kind of keep us paralyzed is just like the unknown. And
Yeah.
that's something that like as an entrepreneur you have to embrace, which is like the unknown. And it's like Elon Musk he said being an entrepreneur is like what do you say like chewing glass and staring into the abyss because it's like you just don't know what's going on and you always have to
Right.
handle the toughest problems to really scale a
Yeah.
business. So
Yeah. And you always just have to like bet on yourself and know that like deep inside this is like what you were meant to do. And if it's a goal of yours and you're following that, then it can never fail.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So the marketing strategies we've seen work in helping clients raise over $100 million. What do you feel like you bring to the table versus other people within your field?
Yeah. I think it's really important to build a solid foundation. I think that's number one. And what that entails, really, and what I think is the most important in building that solid foundation is number one, really diving super deep into your target audience and who that is. I feel like when I talk to people, they kind of skip over that part or they just don't dive deeper and they're like, oh, I'm going after high net worth individuals. And I'm like, yeah, everyone is going after high net worth individuals, but like, who exactly is that, you know? So we do a lot of research there. Even some of the CMOs, they interview the investors that you already have and really and just ask them questions and really get to the nitty-gritty of, why did you invest with this person and what stood out from this person than the other people that you were vetting. And that's, real testimonials from real people that are investing with you. And that is something that is like gold and when it comes to marketing, right? Just knowing those answers to those questions. So we do a lot of that and just way more like niching down to a point where you know exactly who they are and what their pain points are, because that is the basis of your entire marketing. So once we have that information, we have that down, then you have your brand voice and you have that already in your head. So when you're creating anything, when you're creating, say your website or your emails or your posts on LinkedIn, this is what you're speaking to, this is who you're speaking to, and how can you get the message across that you are the solution to their problem, right? So that's number one. Number two, I think building a really solid CRM, really solid, email marketing to the point where it's working for you. I've talked to a lot of people that they sign up for CRMs, but it's more of a headache than a tool for them.
Mhm.
And so I think we do a really good job at making sure that it's working for them.
Mhm.
Kind of understanding what they don't like to do and making sure their CRM does it for them. Because it's beautiful automation and it's beautiful tagging and it's can tell you so much valuable information about the people in your pipeline and like really how to tailor all of your marketing. So if you don't use it correctly, if you don't have a good tagging system, you need to know as much information as possible from someone that fills out your form and is in your CRM. So when you get on a call with them, you kind of already come to the table with like the gun loaded essentially.
Mhm.
And then um, another one is like your pipeline. Like you want to go to your CRM, open it up and understand where everyone is at. Like in what process of the pipeline are they at, or the sales process, what stage are they at? So making sure that all makes sense to you. Um, and yeah, just building out a solid foundation and making sure that your CRM is doing what it needs to do, which is to nurture and educate the people that are in your CRM.
Absolutely.
Um, and then number three, I think after the first two are done, would be to just put yourself out there. And that looks very different for everyone, whether that's posting on LinkedIn or starting a YouTube channel or starting a podcast. But if you don't give people a basis as to which they can build a relationship with you, then you're missing the mark. You're missing the whole point because other people are already doing that. So they're other people like your potential investor is going to make a relationship with this person because you didn't give them the opportunity to, because you're not putting yourself out there. So, I think we give people like a really good opportunity to do that and help them do that as well, because some people are like, I don't want to be on camera. I hate being on camera, or, I'm not a very good writer. How do I write a LinkedIn post? I have no idea. So we kind of give them the tools and help them guide them along in that process.
That's awesome. It kind of reminded me of when I just like recently started doing posts with like video stuff and I remember just realizing that like it hit me one day. I think I told you this. Well, two things. I went to a conference last year and this lady she raises capital for multifamily, but her like niche was specifically like nurses. And it was all like catered to nurses. And I'm talking to her and I was like, yeah, like I'm struggling with like, getting on camera and like I just don't know what to, I just like I'm struggling with that. And she was like, listen, like you have to go back to like your why you're doing this. And I was like, yeah, but it's scary. And I remember like she like mumbled and then like she didn't want to be just, but she was like, I guess like your why isn't enough. And I was like, wow, that's heavy. And I was like, she's absolutely right. And I also realized too that if I wanted to take this to a high level, I had to do stuff that was going to distinguish me from other people. And that
Mhm.
one thing is speaking to people like you and putting myself out there and then what I aspire to, what I'm going to is talk to crowd and be a public speaker because I feel like that's how you reach the masses, and it's something I feel like I would be good at. And yeah, so like you just have to put yourself out there because like how can people invest in you if they don't know you? And then on
Right.
top of that, it's like how can they invest with you when they don't know, like, and trust you? You know what I mean? You don't come off as
Exactly.
authority. You know what I mean? So it's very important that, like, as you said before, that like we have to put ourselves out there and just make everyone be you have to be tangible. You have to feel people need to feel like that they know you.
Right. Exactly.
What's the number one hire you feel like you need to, what's the number one thing you feel like people need to hire when they're doing their real estate investment business?
Yeah, I mean, I think I I think people, obviously I'm going to say marketing, but I think a lot of people go through kind of the same process. They try and do it on their own. They're not an expert in it. They don't have the time to do it, and it's just way overwhelming and they get burnt out and it's like, okay, I got nowhere. And then they're like, okay, I need to hire someone. Who do I hire? They're potentially, going to hire like a VA or a marketing service that isn't real estate specific or isn't capital raising specific. Um, that's for like a marketing agency. And then you're having to tell them how this works and like what the SEC laws are and like managing like several different people. And then it just seems like it's just overwhelmed and like not much is getting done and they're just missing the mark and the copywriting isn't right and you're just having to manage them more than they're helping you.
Absolutely.
Um, and then, if you're hiring a VA, I've heard great stories about VAs. I've heard some pretty bad stories about VAs. It really kind of is hit or miss. But with a lot of them, you're going to have to do a lot of hand holding. And usually they're very specialized. So they will hire, just a social media VA. And social media is great, check the box, but there's so many other things that need to happen. You need to have a solid CRM foundation. So when they find you on social media and then they, is this person creating lead magnets for you? Are they doing your email marketing? They're so specialized that they really can't do all of those things, or they can only do like one or two well. So it has to do with like a lot of hand holding there. So, they try different things and it's worked for a little bit and then it's not working anymore, or it's working,
Mhm.
but you need this too. And so, I think with CMO, we do it all and kind of to a point where it's like, when you say that you like do it all, it's like, then what do you do? But it really is building that solid foundation. So I feel like I do have to do a lot of, explaining to people.
Mhm.
If they didn't go through those steps of, trying to do it or hiring these people and it didn't work, then I really do have to explain how important marketing is, and really all the
Absolutely.
things that need to go into it because it's a lot. It's a heavy lift. But yeah, I think what we do is that we know the answers to your questions
Mhm.
and we execute them very well, and we know the best practices, and we've been doing this for a very long time, so we have the track record and the background and all that stuff. So yeah, I think marketing and hiring like a solid marketing team or marketing.
Oh, you broke up just a little bit, Julia.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Oh, you're back.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. Did I cut out at all?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay. Do you want me to re-say like my last?
Oh, you're fine. Keep going. Yeah, we catch the drift.
But yeah, I think that that's really it, is just hiring a marketing expert that is an expert in the capital raising field, because it kind of is like a very interesting industry and interesting niche. So they need to know what they're doing.
It's a really good point. Like as you said before, especially with the VAs, I see a lot of people are using VAs, especially from the Philippines. It's like, people don't realize like you need to have a SOP in place for them, and it's really
Right.
you're getting a blank slate, and especially when it comes to this and finance and real estate, you need to make sure that they are compliant. They know what they can and what they cannot do because one slip up and you are absolutely liable, and
Yeah.
that's one thing you cannot afford to have or slip ups. I love the fact that like your service is so catered specifically to capital raises within the real estate space and multifamily and stuff. And you come from learning, and that's another thing too. I realized too. I learned very fast in the beginning when I was like, okay, like how does I always talk about the game within the game, and I'm like, okay, the game is multifamily. I'll say, what's the game within the game? And I've realized I kept hearing the same question when I was like, would talk to other people, and I was like, oh, I do capital. I'm like, oh, what group are you in? Oh, like
Mm,
like what group? And it's like, okay, like this is how maybe it's how I think too. It's like this is how the future is going to be. Like when you're
yeah.
like in this like niche, like oh, like I'm a painter. Like okay, like what like what mastermind did you go to? So I think
Mhm.
it's going to be a day where that sort of like outweighs going to college because I was
Yeah.
thinking to myself, I'm like, what's the point of me? My kid wants to be in real estate. Like, what's the point of me paying for him to go to school to learn all these other subjects that aren't related to real estate
Right.
when I can pay a mastermind? I could pay the mastermind for one semester. I mean, I could pay a mastermind what I would pay for one semester
Yeah.
at a good college, and you're
Yeah.
getting the onboarding experience. And then, like I said, the biggest thing, and I always thought it was kind of laughable when I first learned, but the ecosystem. And I'm like,
Mhm.
the ecosystem's the biggest thing. It's
Yeah.
like you can go learn whatever you want to learn, but if you don't have a place where you can thrive and meet other people that are trying to do the same thing and work with them
Right.
and build relationships with them like on a daily and weekly basis, it's like you like I said, you go to school, you get a degree, and then now you have to find a job. When
Right.
you and in the mastermind you go and you work hard, you learn all the things you need to learn, and you end up meeting people and building relationships with people, and those
Right.
relationships lead into doing deals. And
Right.
like I said, so it's kind of interesting. Like then, like you saying, like Raise Masters, it's like people know Raise Masters. It's the one of the best out there. It's like it's without a doubt she knows what she's doing, and and then you can
Right.
go back and the funniest thing is that how they were saying like, oh, like I was in Raise Masters, but I hired someone to do X, Y, and Z from X, Y, and Z mastermind, and I
Right.
knew someone in that mastermind, and I could double check on them, like, oh yeah, like I know them for years, and so it's a way we can perform background checks and stuff like that too. So
Yeah.
like that's kind of
Totally.
crazy.
Yeah. I actually met this kid on a networking call, and I literally say kid because he was 15. And I
Mm.
was like, oh my gosh, like good for you. And he
Yeah.
would I was like, how did you even get into this world? Um, it was from a mastermind. I think it was Bridger Pennington, I want to
Okay.
say. I think it was him. He was like, yeah, I like listened to him on YouTube last year, and I've just been like going to networking calls and meeting people and just learning. And I was like, amazing, because that, yeah, like you're gonna be doing very well for yourself. You're 15 years old.
Exactly. I was at a networking event. I saw a kid and he was like, yeah, I have to start up and, I think I'm like, get my MBA first. And I was like, why? And yeah,
Literally.
he was like, no, but like, you get your MBA. And I felt bad because his friend had just graduated with his MBA. And I'm like, no shade to you or anything, to your friend or anything like that. But it's like, why do you want to spread yourself to learn all this information when you need to like double down on this,
Yeah.
like whatever that niche or whatever the startup you had, I'm like, you need to find an ecosystem that's in within that. And you need to double down on that if that's what you really want to do. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And it's sort of
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, you're good. Um, my future mother-in-law actually asked me, she was like, would you ever go back to school to get your MBA? And I was just like, why?
Why?
She was,
Exactly. For what?
I don't know. I was like, exactly. Like, what? Like, it just does, it's just a pattern
Yeah.
that people think that they need to do. And they think that, once they do this and they do this and they do this, that they're going to have this wonderful job and they're going to get paid more. And that is the case in some industries,
Mhm.
but like, in this, it's just not. Yeah, I think honestly, going to a mastermind and getting your feet wet with that and learning through a mastermind, it would definitely be a higher ROI than going to college.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when you know exactly what you want to do. It's like, okay, you
Mhm.
know exactly what to do, but then it's a no-brainer. Like we need to get you in some sort of ecosystem where we can double down on that because as I said before, and it's kind of raised crazy because like it literally is like the generation directly behind us. And
Mhm.
even with us, like I feel like we're even I mean, I went to school, I have my BS in biology, I have like over 70K worth of like loans still from college, you know what I mean? And it's just like wild because we're the first generation. It's like, okay, like oh, we didn't need that.
Right.
And it's okay to tell other people that like, no, like learn from my mistakes. We're that first
Mhm.
generation. You'd be like, learn from us. Student debt was predatory, and we have all this stuff going on now with that. It's
Right.
like this is the future, and it's like great that like we were able to be first of all have the entrepreneurial mindset to know that like okay, I don't need to go get a degree to go work for someone.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Whereas though half the time the entrepreneur or the one that's doing it on a big scale, like they like all the biggest people did never finish college. That's the
Yeah,
crazy stuff. Like
drop out.
they all
Right.
dropped out. Like
Exactly.
why would I stay for what for what?
Yeah.
So
I know. It's
yeah, it's
crazy.
crazy. How do you attract more investors and raise capital faster and easier? What is the secret? I don't want to say the secret sauce because that's super cliche, but what do you feel like makes you? Here's an even better question. This is going to be more interesting. So there's a lot of stuff with people. I've seen a lot of services involving AI.
Mm-hmm.
Now, um, how do you feel this is going to happen moving forward? Because I feel like it's starting to get to the point where, like, okay, we're sort of recognizing what's real, what's AI, and how do you, or here's a good one. How we're blurring the lines of spam. How do
Mm-hmm.
you feel like you navigate the spam and what's not spam? Of course, you got to take a shot for cold calling. This how sometimes that's how the game works. Sometimes, but how do you feel like you sort of yeah define that line of spam and AI and stuff like that? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think AI is definitely something that we need to embrace because it's going to be a huge part of our lives, whether we like it or not. However, I think there's a fine line as to when you use AI and when you create something authentically.
Hmm.
Um, for example, we actually partnered with a CRM that is backed with AI that we actually like utilize with one of our clients. So it's the reason why we kind of brought them on is because this client is extremely busy. He's a serial entrepreneur. He doesn't have time to really like book call, like, even get on like LinkedIn and like book calls, like send them your calendar link, right?
Mm,
So, this CRM has an AI chatbot that really like does that for him. So that was a really huge reason. Like it just made sense,
mm,
that this AI can literally help him book calls, which is the entire goal of our services, and he doesn't have time to do that. So I think bringing it in like in that sense and it actively like doing something that you physically cannot do is a perfect way to use AI. I think if you're using AI for in place of like building relationships with people, I think that's a huge problem.
mhm,
I think that this whole industry is based on relationships. It's a relationship game, as we all know. And so if you don't see the value in building relationships and you don't take the time to do that, then you're kind of missing the point. And honestly, any sense of marketing isn't going to help you. So you need to make sure that, whatever time that you do have, whether that's little time or that's your entire focus, you need to make sure that you're spending that time really building those relationships.
absolutely.
Um, so I think when it comes to, creating content, obviously you can like throw something on ChatGPT. I mean, I do that all the time and just for like ideas, but it authentically should be you. And it authentically should, pull in like an example of, something that's going on in your personal life or, add in that storytelling element that's real. That's super important and not just, having ChatGPT be like, create me a post on this, and this, and then copy and paste. Like people see right through that, as you mentioned. And like commenting and engaging with people on LinkedIn. Um, I think that's really important to building those relationships as well. So yeah, I think there's a fine line of when you should use AI and when you should leave it out.
Huh, yeah, that's a really good answer, actually.
Thank you.
Um, I just feel like we're gonna get to like one point where like we have like these like apps on our phone that like automatically scan all the text and they're like, this is AI, this is not,
Oh
this is.
gosh, right, yes.
But then it's like, yeah, I'm
I've
sorry.
seen people, I haven't seen it recently, but it was I feel like it was kind of when it first started, when people would use AI to comment on other people's posts, like to
Uh-huh.
engage. Um, and it would like it was, I don't know what company this was or how this was happening, but it very clearly was,
I'm sorry, broke up a little bit, Julia.
sorry,
No, sorry, you said it was very clearly.
it was, am I good now?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay. Yeah, it was very clearly AI, and like they would completely miss the point, and the person that posted it would be like, this is clearly not, like, called them out. They're like, this is clearly AI, like you clearly missed the point here. Like, and
Yeah,
that just crushes your credibility
yeah,
immediately. How do
yeah,
you come back from that? That's
yeah.
extremely awkward.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's very important. You just got some things you can't skip. There's no easy way of doing it. You just have to do it or have someone, you need to have that sort of human touch. Like some things you can't replace.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But it is kind of scary that like we're only like 3 years in. That's like that's the scariest thing for me, man.
I know. And it's scary that the people that like created these are like scared.
Yeah,
You know, they're like, wait, what did I just do? I don't want to have anything to do with this. I'm leaving this company like
exactly.
scared. Yeah, it's very strange
I
world.
know. I just feel like it's going to be crazy. Like after like I've seen well, they're still trying to fix the fingers on the videos because the videos are only like 5 seconds, but like they're trying to like they're close to fixing the fingers. And then I
Yeah.
saw a service today that was actually, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of cool. That have you seen the AI headshots
Yes.
where you take like 8 photos and like that? I'm like, gee, I can look like I'm 25 again.
I know. I know. One of our clients actually does that, and I didn't know it was AI, but I like kind of like it kind of looked AI because it was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
a
exactly. You're like exactly.
like there's no way that's real.
And
There's
like
no way.
I'm looking, I'm just like, that's a really good picture. I'm like,
It looks good though. Yeah, it does.
So I'm lucky that like I'm getting old and like my hairline's receding. So like it's me. Like I'm embracing it. Like it is what it is. Like I feel like we need to have that realism and be transparent about the just like not like even now like I was going to get headshots. I'm just like I'm going to tell the guy like yeah like don't do too much. It's like I need people to know like this is me and it is what it is.
Right. Because imagine like meeting these people in person.
Yeah.
Everything that you've, used and posted are like AI generated pictures, and then you see them in person and you're like, I don't think that's the same person.
And the thing is like that's hella distasteful when it's like you see
No.
like you catfish me as an investor. Like I'm
Right.
having Zoom meetings and they're like, no, you're not Harrison. Like
True. Yeah.
Harrison's hairline goes back to here. And even when I was thinking about doing my like my profile pictures, like I was like, yo, I have to get headshots because my profile pictures from like 6, 7 years ago. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's me, but it's like that's not that, I was young and now I'm married and getting older. So it's kind of crazy. But I guess that was a big thing I wanted to ask you was just the whole AI thing. Julia Anderson, thank you very much for coming out. Is there anything you have to ask me or you want to ask me? Any questions? And don't worry because I always put like our guests on the spot near the end of the show. Like, yeah, like you have to think of a question like right now.
I know. No pressure at all.
Yes, exactly.
Hold on, let me think. You might have to edit this out, but I'm gonna
It's
think.
all right. Take your time.
Who is your target audience?
So my target audience are business owners that have scaled their business. So that have tipping the scale. So it's business. And the thing is like, it's kind of weird because I'm like, okay, like I was trying to, it's been this is actually really good. This is free consultation. So like my whole thing was like, all right, like who have I had the most contact with? And over my years of DJing, I've had contact with a lot of affluent people.
Yeah.
And business people have scaled and people who have scaled their business. And I've been in that situation where like, okay, I know what it's like to have it work really hard in the business, invest in yourself, not not be in the green for 3 to 5 years and managing people and situations. So I was like, I kind of like identify with them the most because first it was nightclub people, and then I was like, nightclub is like not especially when I'm trying to move towards the accredited, and there's not a lot of accredited investors in the nightclub or those that don't claim to be accredited, but that's another conversation. So like I was like, okay, like business people. I created the podcast. I was like, okay, like I've met a lot of people like you who have services that can help people, business people scale their business. And I was like, okay, it kind of clicks. So I was like, I guess that's going to be my niche.
Love that. Yeah.
How does that sound to you, Julia?
That's great. I love that. And obviously, the things that you're posting in this podcast would be very beneficial to those people. But I guess let me ask you this too. What is your number one advice for scaling a business?
Oh, well done, Julia. Well done. My number one, fail fast.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, and it's like, yeah, and that's a conversation we had too. Fail fast and learn. So I think the biggest two things. The biggest thing is the gap between learning something and then putting it into action. Because people will
Mm-hmm.
sit back and like, watch 1,000 podcasts, read 1,000 books, but I'm like, okay, like, what are you doing? Because I've done like a 15 years professional DJ. I learned on my own. So the biggest thing was I didn't have a mentor. So I was like, I could teach someone what I learned in 5 years rather than 15. But two things I can't teach is I can't teach you to hustle, to practice and get good. And I can't teach you certain experiences that you have to persevere. Like I cleared out a bar of 300 people before playing the wrong song, but when I first started. And it sucks a lot, but it's like you need to have those experiences so like, okay, next time this is
Right.
what
Yeah.
and that's
Learn
why it's
from
good to have a mentor sometimes to teach you about those things. So
that. Yeah, absolutely. That's very cool. Are you offering any mentorship services?
no, that actually does not interest me whatsoever. Both of my
Yeah.
parents are teachers,
Okay.
and it's funny because like people are like, DJing another lane for income is like to teach people how to DJ.
Yeah.
And I just don't have the patience,
Mm,
honestly. I like
yeah,
the act of doing it. I don't really like the act of teaching people. You know what I mean?
totally. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. My dad's a teacher too, and I feel like that's what I learned when I was working in the restaurant. Obviously, I was a boss and I was like a manager to many people, and the crazy part is that when people like came out to me when I was leaving, they told me that I was their mentor. And I was like, whoa, like
Mm,
I always thought that I was, horrible at training. I would like you, like I'm really quick, I just like, I'd rather just do it on by myself because I know do it well and I'll probably do it faster.
mhm.
Obviously that's not really great, like as a major, but I tried my best. Um, but yeah, they would like say that I was their mentor. And I feel like it was just because I was like a good example. Like I
Yeah.
was, always like worked hard and, always lent a helping hand in any way that I could. I was like in the trenches with them. Um, but yeah, that's I love that you know that about yourself too.
Yeah.
You're
It's not.
like, no.
I'm not like it is funny because it's funny you say that because I feel like in some way, shape, or form, my journey and our journey are teaching people, like I said, indirectly. So,
Right.
so I
Yeah.
guess like when it comes to like, oh, do I feel like teaching people? I feel like getting on a stage and talking about my experience is telling them like, like this, it's possible. That's the biggest thing. Just because a lot of people just don't feel like it's possible, and then also letting them people know like this is what it takes, and you need to know very fast. If like, I tell people like, oh, you do so much. Like, what's the biggest thing? Like, you have to get rid of the 9 to 5 mentality. Like, if you still have that, there's nothing wrong with that either. It's like if you want to have, live for the weekend type thing, and that's what you want to do, like that's fine. But like if you want to really have success at a high skill, like you have to like get rid of that mindset of like, oh, like today's Friday. I'm like, oh, today's Friday. Like I have to go to the club later on after I do a happy hour, after I do 8 hours on my W-2. So for me,
Right.
Fridays were my busiest day and
Right.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. So and then now I'm doing multifamily content. My Sundays used to be my crash out days. Like I work Friday, double Friday, Saturday I'll do a double, and then Sunday I will crash out. Now
Yeah.
Sundays is bulk content day where I have to like get my ass up and like do some stuff on Sundays. So it's all about just being able to have those shifts in mentality as you progress in your journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Very
All
cool.
right. So ladies and gentlemen, once again we have Julia Anderson. So tell people how they can reach you.
Yeah, so I'm most active on LinkedIn. That's the social media platform of my choice. So definitely follow me on there, connect with me, reach out to me. I love meeting new people. Um, and also on our website, capitalmarketingofficer.com, there's a pop-up that'll come up. It's basically a capital raising marketing audit, and it goes through different aspects of the marketing wheel, the marketing machine. So social media, webinars, websites, lead magnets, things like that. And basically it's kind of like a checklist. So it's a really good way to go through that and just make sure you're kind of on the right track. You'll probably figure out, what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are and really what you need help with. And then if you want to schedule a call with me, we can walk through that together and give you some actionable advice to make sure that your marketing is actually working for you. So, yeah,
Awesome. Thank you very much, Julia, for coming out.
thank you, Harry.
One of my foundational members. So as things progress, hopefully I'm still able to get in contact with you as your business grows.
Absolutely.
And just make sure you make sure you give me your assistant's phone number so when I need to reach you, I can reach my people
Yeah.
can talk to your people.
Our
I
people.
yeah, I can't wait to do that. Like, yeah, my people will tell you, whatever.
Right.
But thank
Have
you
my
very much,
assistant
Julia. You said
schedule.
what? Your assistant, yeah, yeah. My
Have my,
my real assistants. Ah.
yeah, real person.
Thanks again, Julia.
Love it. Thank you, Harrison.